Handoff, Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands.
Hello there, Minnesota Vikings faithful. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I am accompanied by Adam Carlson.
Hey,
Kyle Smith.
What's up, everybody?
You guys...
It's true. We are here to talk some football.
Yep, ready to talk about some Vikings football. We got all kinds of great stuff for you guys. The last show of the regular season. Recap show, anyway.
It's true. Last game of the season. We apologize for the tardiness of this program. We've had to deal with a lot of technical issues as far as internet and recording software, and it's just been a mess. So thank you for being patient, and here's the show.
We lost an entire show, but we're going to do it again, and it's going to be better than ever.
I don't know. I'm not going to promise that, but we're going to do our best, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 132 of the Purple People podcast. This one's titled Truth or Bear, because the Vikings played the Chicago Bears in the finale.
Indeed we did.
It's been a while now, but that is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Before we talk about that game, let's talk about the quick hits, because I know I say it all the time, but I love them. Anthony Barr was placed on injured reserve, ending his season. Linebacker Josh Caddo was elevated to the main roster. That means that the Vikings can go into the postseason and the offseason with Josh Caddo on their roster, and they don't have to bring him along on a reserve futures contract or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about Anthony Barr too much because his knee injury was not deemed very serious. He does require some surgery, but it's a very minor procedure from what I've been reading, and he should be absolutely good to go by training camp.
Rick Spielman is the master of manipulation, little moves like what he just did, being able to get a guy that they can hold on to contractually. I love the things that he does like that. So interesting to follow.
It is. It's a lot of fun. Teddy Bridgewater was nominated for Pepsi Rookie of the Week for Week 17. By now, there probably is a winner, and I haven't looked, but I'll probably have to get on that right after quick hits, and I'll let you guys know.
If they win, do they get like free Pepsi for a year?
To be honest, I don't know.
It'd be pretty sweet if they did.
If so, Teddy's already got a couple years of Pepsi.
You get him a life.
He's had a couple nice performances.
Get him a lifetime of Pepsi.
I'm checking right now. Got it loading up. And Teddy did not win. It went to Odell Beckham, but I kind of figured that it would. You can't argue that choice.
I like the Odell Beckham memes that hit Twitter over everything now with him. It's pretty fantastic.
As much as I love football, I loved when they had the Odell Beckham memes combined with the Randy Orton ones.
Yeah.
That just took the cake.
Yeah, that
right
was
there.
Brilliant.
We now know that the Vikings will own the number 11 draft pick in the NFL draft. That's earlier than I thought it would be, considering the Vikings ended with a 7-9 record. But I'm not going to complain one bit, and I'll be watching, and I'll be doing my draft profiles like usual over on the Viking Age. So follow over there, because I'm going to be talking about all kinds of players the Vikings need. And I'm going to be giving my opinions on them, and you guys might not agree with me. That's the way it goes.
I think it is a great spot to draft from, because you can...
I like 11.
I like it quite a bit, because you can look at moving up, or you can look at moving back.
It's true. A lot of flexibility at number 11. Everson Griffin and Jerome Felton were named alternates for the Pro Bowl. No Vikings were named to the Pro Bowl itself, but hey, got a little bit of pleasure, I guess, in knowing that if a defensive end or a fullback go down, which means that if Jerome Felton is in the Pro Bowl, that means the Green Bay Packers are in the Super Bowl. So I'm not sure how to cheer on that one. But speaking of Jerome Felton, he will void his contract because he had an optional year this year. He was scheduled to make quite a bit of money. So rather than probably be a cap casualty, he decided that year would become void and he'd enter free agency. It's possible he'll be back with Minnesota. Maybe he'll try to follow Adrian Peterson if Adrian Peterson doesn't end up back on the Vikings. But we do know that Minnesota will have to either be courting another fullback, or they might just roll with Zach Line. Who knows? But for now, Jerome Felton's status with the Vikings is completely up in the air.
They've been grooming Zach Line for quite a while now. I gotta think that he's the one that they're gonna roll with, even though I'm a huge Jerome Felton fan and wanted to see him get more opportunities this season to carry the ball and or be the lead blocker for Matt Asiata or Jerick McKinnon. I would have liked to have seen that a bit more too, but I do think that they are grooming Zach Line to take over for that spot. And I think that's what they're going to do next season. I really do.
Could very well be the situation. Wide receiver Jarius Wright feels that he's done enough to earn an extension with the Minnesota Vikings. I tend to agree, and I'd like to see him stick around for Minnesota for quite a while.
Yep.
I think him and Teddy got something good going on.
Get that man a contract extension. He's got good chemistry with Mr. Teddy Bridgewater, and I like him. He's a good, smart, talented kid, so let's keep him on board. Good slot guy to have on the team.
Perfect thing to plug right here. If you haven't seen Everson Griffin's post-game interview after the overtime win against the Jets, speaking of Jarius Wright, go watch that. That'd be enough for you to want to get Jarius back too. Hilarious video, but definitely one of his shining moments. I think he should come back too.
Great stuff. The Vikings signed Henry Josie to their active roster from Jacksonville's practice squad.
Jacksonville.
Not too often you see players come from Jacksonville to Minnesota, but hey, I guess it goes both ways, right?
Usually it's the other way around. Usually our guys are going to Jacksonville.
It's true. The Vikings have signed 9 players to reserve futures contracts. It was Justin Anderson, the linebacker, Kane Coulter, the wide receiver, Pat Devlin, the quarterback, Isame Faciane, the defensive tackle, Dante Foster, wide receiver, Zach Kieran, the center, Jordan McCray, the guard, Ryan Otten, tight end, and Dominique Williams, the running back. I'm always excited by Dominique Williams. I'm for some reason I really enjoy watching him during the preseason. I always want him to stick with the team. So I'm glad they slapped a reserve futures contract on him as well as Isame Faciane. He's another guy that I really like.
And I know a lot of my Twitter followers are big fans of what was the receiver that you named? Dante Foster. Getting a lot of traction on Twitter for people being excited for him as well too.
Oh yeah. The Vikings had 2 players named to Sports Illustrated's all-rookie team. I want to see if you guys can guess
Samantha
them.
Ponder.
All-rookie team. Anthony Barr.
Yep.
Teddy
Who was
Bridgewater.
the other? Teddy Bridgewater, yep, the starting quarterback over Derek Carr. Good decisions. I like it. I like it a lot. And we were just talking about this a little bit before the show, so I figure I'll include it anyway. There are some rumblings that Larry Fitzgerald will not be back with the Cardinals next year, and Vikings fans are going wild with the speculation that he would possibly return to Minnesota.
I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, it sounds great on paper, but being the little nerd that I am, thinking about what we've done this year, and you got to bring money into this. Will AP be back? Blah blah blah. And let's be real. Fitz was in his prime when he went to the Super Bowl. A little bit after that. That was 7 years ago. He is not the best anymore, and I used to consider him the best. But is he still awesome? Yes. Is he still better than some of the wide receivers we have? Absolutely. I just don't know, depending on the money situation, how that would go. But I would love to see him in purple if the money would work out.
I'm not sure he fits the youth scheme of the team anymore. That's the sad part. Clint Kubiak, the assistant wide receiver coach for the Vikings, has accepted a staff job at the University of Kansas. So Minnesota will be looking for a new assistant wide receiver coach.
Not surprised to see him move on. I'm sure he is slowly probably trying to work his way up to eventual head coach material.
Absolutely. And that was a lot of quick hits. But I'm not done yet because I got one more.
Uh-oh.
You love them.
The Vikings know their home and away opponents for next year. I'm excited because it gives me an opportunity to take a look at what games I could possibly attend or what games might be a little bit more meaningful than others. So let me take a quick rundown of the home games. At home, Minnesota's going to be playing against the Bears, Lions, Packers, as always, division opponents. Chiefs, Giants, Chargers, Seahawks, and Rams. Some tough opponents there. On the road, they'll be visiting, of course, the 3 division opponents again, along with the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the 49ers.
NFC and AFC West showdowns.
It's going to be something. I know I'm personally going to try as hard as I can to attend that home game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't make it out for a lot of games, but I want to experience TCF while the Vikings are there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a chance to this year, so I've got that circled on my list. Can't say calendar yet because schedules aren't out, but I've got a list. I circled it. Put a little star next to it. That's where I want to
I'm
be.
excited to see them play the Denver Broncos because I'm assuming Peyton Manning is going to be back, and that is going to be a good test. It's a good test for this defense. And, of course, everyone would like to har laugh and say, hey, let's play the worst teams in the league a bunch of times in a row and get to the playoffs that way. You know what? I want to go out there and I want to beat a good team like the Denver Broncos. So
You want to be the very best.
Take it away.
you're the singer of the
I'm-
group, so you go right ahead.
If any fans out there recognize that song, I'm sorry.
Is that the one
I'm
from
really
the
sorry.
King of Kong?
No, that
Documentary?
is the theme song to Pokemon.
Oh, I don't know.
But I'm also excited to see the Vikings take on the Raiders. Not because the Raiders are a somewhat,
Shitty
I'm
team.
going to say, not so good team, but because it is the matchup of the top 2 quarterbacks, I believe, in that class, Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Carr. And there's also the matchup of the top 2 defensive players, in my opinion, in that draft with Anthony Barr and Khalil Mack. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. That's one I want to see.
I love Khalil Mack.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like pretty challenging. The teams on the downfall, obviously San Fran. I don't know. They had to come down off their little cloud of NFC Championship and Super Bowl appearances, but the Rams are tough defensively. Seattle's probably going to win the Super Bowl again. Kansas City barely missed the playoffs. Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. We get to see Odell Beckham at home with the Giants. That'll be a cool game to
Odell
watch. I'm
got
sure that'll be
back.
a high-flying game.
I'm expecting Minnesota to get a couple more primetime games this year. Hopefully they realize that things are looking up for Minnesota.
Thank you, Teddy. Thank you, Mike.
Hopefully we can
Alright, so
win
let's
in
talk about
prime
the game.
time.
Hey, none of that. I think the Vikings' last primetime win was the game that I was at.
Yeah, the Redskins game?
I think
Yeah, because
so.
that was Thursday Night Football. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Crazy. I don't want to be right, though. Can I be wrong?
Sure.
You can. We'll accept it.
All right, let's give away our game ball and our donkey for the game against the Bears. I'll go first, and I'll give my game ball to Audie Cole. 4 total tackles, 1 pass defended. Guy was everywhere. Just making plays, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, but somehow that chicken always ended up wherever the ball was. So, Audie Cole, nice job. Really appreciate what you've done. And you're giving the Vikings hope for your future and probably making them reconsider the entire starting lineup of linebackers, including Mr. Chad Greenway.
Mhm. I will piggyback off Adam and say that my game ball is also going to Audie Cole, who I think probably had his best game as a pro against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
He made a really strong case for reducing Chad Greenway's role, and that comes at a really pivotal time for the Minnesota Vikings because you don't know exactly what Chad's status is going to be moving forward with the team. I personally would like to see Chad come back as a veteran kind of backup rotational guy with some of the younger guys getting maybe more of the reps over top of him. But that is for later discussions to figure out. In the meantime, game ball goes to Chad Greenway, who was able to fill in and play a good game for the Minnesota Vikings.
Nice. I know
Awesome.
you meant Audie Cole, but we'll work with it.
What did I say? Did I say Chad?
You
just
said
gave your
Chad.
game ball to
See,
Chad
well,
Greenway.
You were talking about how awesome Chad was. That's why it's fine. We get
You're an
you.
Iowa boy. It's okay.
I meant Chad. Or not Chad. Shit. I meant Audie Cole gets my game ball. That's what I'm trying to say.
We apologize, everyone. Kyle West is inebriated during the
Little bit.
show. No,
He's had a couple
just
drinkies.
It was a long day at work today.
Kyle
Happy New
Smith,
Year,
go ahead.
everyone. All right, I like to be different. I was totally going to give mine an Audie Cole
Can't
too.
blame ya.
From the moment that the game started, he made the first tackle and he made his impression known. But I love giving away the game ball to this guy. I'm going to be excited about him for years to come, like you guys should. Teddy Bridgewater, 17 of 25, 68% completions on his passes, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, QBR and a rating of 90.3, 1 interception, which I'm going to segue into my donkey, which you guys can hate me for. Hate me all you like. That's what we like, feedback. But game ball goes to Teddy. Looking great. Keeps climbing the ladder slowly but surely. Polishing himself, getting better week to week. Can't wait to see what he does next year.
Yes.
Donkey this week. Matt Asiata. Congratulations on 91 yards and 19 carries. Giving you the donkey this week because yet again, you got a pass thrown to you, which was not caught. It was a good throw, and it ended up being an interception because you couldn't hold on to it. Don't make the quarterback stats go down for fantasy guys out there, because I have a feeling Teddy's going to get a couple picks next
I
year.
think you got last week on your mind because the interception came on a pass that was a touch behind Cordero Patterson.
This week it was?
Yeah.
Ooh, see, I'm drunk too. Well, we'll scratch that, man. I think we said that in the other earlier in the week when we did the first failed podcast. I can't believe I didn't catch that before.
But hey, it happens, and Matt Asiata, as much as you want him to be the feature guy when both other 2 starters in front of him are out, it's a hard role to be in. It really is. I mean, you can't fill Adrian Peterson's shoes. And Jerick McKinnon was explosive enough to where people really wanted to see more from him. Instead, they got the plodding and the slower, I'll say slower because he can still outrun me by a mile,
Yeah.
Matt Asiata.
It's interesting to look at the overall stats for the guys, and you see that Asiata had 570 rushing yards total, and Jerick McKinnon, and he didn't even play nearly as many games, had 538. Yeah.
That'll show you. All right, my donkey, and I hate giving it to this guy because I love him. I do. I actually cheered on draft day when the Minnesota Vikings selected Rhett Ellison. But although he caught every pass that was thrown his way, it was pass protection where he struggled mightily and gave up way too many pressures. And I want to see Rhett Ellison continue to grow and develop into that Jimmy Kleinsasser role and maybe catching a couple more passes out of the backfield than Kleinsasser did. But still, Rhett Ellison needs to be better in pass protection. That should be one of his strong suits, and it just wasn't in this game. I'm not going to project it into his future because I think this may have just been a fluke game for him. Usually he's pretty solid, but this week he's my donkey. One donkey left to go.
Is it me?
It's you.
I actually don't have a donkey. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have one this week. Which sucks because it's...
I wish I could take that back because I'm watching the replay now, feeling like a rookie that it was to Cordero Patterson. So hey, you can take mine away, help me look a little less bad, and give it to him for not being able to catch the ball, letting Teddy get another interception, which cost us another turnover.
On the original recording, when we recorded this the first time, you did give it to Cordero Patterson.
Did I?
Yes.
See, that's where my head was at. My apologies. Matt Asiata, please don't block me on Instagram. I follow you. I love you, bro.
Well, there you go. I'll give it to Cordero Patterson then.
There you go. Now, the highlight of this game for the Vikings against the Bears, to me, was Minnesota's defense. They shut out Chicago in the first quarter, and then in the last 3 quarters of the game, Minnesota still didn't allow a touchdown, but gave up only 1 field goal per quarter of play, allowing 9 points to the Chicago offense that has so many weapons, including Matt Forte, who broke several team and NFL records during that game, and Alshon Jeffrey, who can just be an absolute monster to try to cover, and then you got Bennett at tight end. This team has weapons, and this Minnesota Vikings team, as depleted as it was at linebacker, and the struggles that they've been having getting to the quarterback despite all the talent on the defensive line, and some of the people that they have in the secondary aren't exactly what a lot of people would consider starting quality or have been struggling all season. They still managed to hold the Chicago Bears team to 9 points, and that is an amazing accomplishment for this team. something that you never would have expected last season.
Yeah,
I'm watching the end of the game right now. Sorry, I'm in La La Land. It's just awesome to see with all the talent they have on offense for them to only be held to 3 field goals. And they didn't have the excuse of, oh, we have Jimmy Clausen starting. This was Jay Cutler's kind of a, hey, it's kind of gimme game is what I would call it. Just a, hey, you guys, you messed up. You should have kept me in. And there we are with 3 field goals on the day.
Well, one
Awesome
more note,
job.
that time clock in Minnesota, it worked the whole time.
Ooh, touche. Touche on that one.
It's not really fair because it shouldn't have impacted the game as much in Chicago, but it's the truth.
It's the little things.
Sometimes it is the little things. Offensively, Minnesota, we already talked about the good day that Teddy Bridgewater had. We talked about the game that Matt Asiata had running the ball. Let's talk about Adam Thielen. 3 catches on 3 targets, 68 yards, 1 touchdown, a nice bomb down the right side of the field from Teddy Bridgewater. It was really just a nice play that resulted in a touchdown. The kind of things that Teddy Bridgewater has been criticized throughout his season so far with the Vikings for not being able to do.
Mm-hmm. He was my alternative for the game ball for the week, was to give it to Adam Thielen, who I really think is starting to show his promise and his potential, and that's what makes it really tough when you talk about, drafting a wide receiver or bringing in someone like Larry Fitzgerald, because what do you do roster-wise when you've got guys like him who can contribute on offense and on special teams? It's like, it makes it really tough to bring in another player.
It does, and it's hard to carry 6 wide receivers on a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough decision to make. Greg Jennings added 45 yards on 3 catches. Jarius Wright, 3 catches, 23 yards. Red Ellison, 3 catches, 23 yards.
We need to give Greg Jennings some credit for making some tough freaking catches for this team.
Oh, yeah.
One-handed catches that just look awesome, too.
Yeah, just over the course of this season, you're seeing him and Teddy get on the same page here towards the end, and I like it. Greg is a tough player who's been doing some good for the team. I like having him on the roster. I really do.
I know a lot of people have been down on Jennings because they don't feel like he's earned the contract that he got. But considering all the instability he's had while he's been here, the woes of the offensive line even after they had to start their rookie quarterback, I think Greg Jennings has been pretty solid. And he's been there for a lot of the guys that wanted to learn and wanted to develop. And he's just an all-around good guy with the Greg Jennings organization and the Greg Jennings Foundation. I'm a fan of the guy. I am.
Greg had to man up on national television and be like, no, Christian Ponder is as good of a quarterback as Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's what he tried to do for this team when he came in. He's a smart guy. He knew right from the start that, like, that was BS. Like, but he said what he had to say. He's done what he's had to do. I think he's been worth every penny, and I don't think that they will ask him to take a drop in pay to stay on the team. I really don't.
No, I don't think they will either. Not at all.
It'd be a slap in the face to do that to him, I think. What do I know?
Let's talk about the Vikings defense. I know we talked about how they held the Bears to only 3 field goals, but individually there were a lot of really good performances. We already talked about Audie Cole's 14 tackles and 1 pass defense. Gerald Hodges added 11 tackles as well, and he had the defense lose, or the Bears offense lose 2 yards on one of those tackles. Andrew Sendejo was even flying around, had 9 tackles. This is a weird play where the secondary that you wouldn't expect are doing things that are just what some people believe are beyond their capabilities. It is truly a situation where it's next guy up, and these next guys up are getting it done.
I firmly believe that Mike Zimmer can coach a 2x4 into the Pro Bowl. Like, I think he is that good of a coach when it comes to players on defense, and we're really lucky to have him as our head coach because you're going to see a consistency on this team with him.
Absolutely. It's nice to have a Black Monday where we're not worried about our coach getting fired.
Not one bit.
For a minute, I thought you were going extremely racist there, Adam.
What?
Never mind.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but let's move on. Let's talk about the robot. We got to talk about the robot,
Corey
right?
Wooten?
Yeah. After that sack dance,
Mhm.
what'd you guys think of that?
It's pretty awesome.
Like I said the first time around, it was so bad it was good.
I couldn't help it. I had to watch it like 4 or 5 times, and every time I watch it, I couldn't decide whether I hated it or absolutely loved it, and I eventually ended up accepting it and embracing it, just because it looked like something you'd see on a Dave Chappelle sketch. That's how much I loved it.
I just love seeing our guys
You know,
out there having fun, playing with heart, in a game that really doesn't mean anything, like they're still out there playing their best for Mike Zimmer.
On a side note, what did you think about Teddy Bridgewater tackling the guy that intercepted him?
that's the best stat of the night. And I wanted to say it in the last time we recorded. Going down the defensive side of the chart, it's like da 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 has a tackle. Teddy Bridgewater has a tackle.
What?
Awesome. Not awesome considering the circumstances, but that just shows you the effort that he would put out there. So
It's like when you play basketball, you're always told to follow your shot, right? And you'll be
Mhm.
watching an NBA game, and nobody does it. Nobody ever follows their shot. But Teddy Bridgewater followed his shot on this one. He threw the interception, while some quarterbacks would, pout a little bit or just kind of lose their focus. Bridgewater followed the player and was actually able to track him down, get enough on him to be able to force him to the ground where I think just his knee touched.
hmm
It's a fantastic play defensively by the quarterback.
Well, he's young, he can get away with that. Give him a couple more years, and I don't know if I want to see our quarterback out there trying to make tackles too much. He's
No, I'm
Be
not
like
saying you
Brett
should
Favre
move him to
was doing
safety or anything,
Yeah.
but
good old Brett Favre back in the day doing the chop tackles.
yeah, that's right.
it's nice to see the effort.
Yep.
Because this year, the quarterback class in the NFL, sometimes you question some of the effort of some of the players. And I'm glad that we don't have to do that with Teddy. Just saying. Blair Walsh connected on every kick that he tried. He only had to make the one extra point. He made 2 field goals, one of them from 44. And it's nice to see a connection from over 40 yards from Blair because he did struggle a bit this year. And a longer field goal outdoors, good stuff. I like it. Otherwise, let's talk about something Mr. Kyle Smith wanted to touch on, the MVP race.
I should probably have saved this for the off weeks when we have a lot of time to fill, but we're going to do it now. Around the NFL, this isn't Vikings related. Maybe we'll have Teddy Bridgewater win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Strong case to be made for that, which we're hoping we can talk about that next week. But MVP race, it's a quarterback-friendly league. It's really hard to play defense in the NFL now, specifically corner, just with all the PI calls. And, everyone wants to see offense. The league has shifted to make the offense, I wouldn't say more readily accessible. It's still a hard game. But where I'm going with this is I have 2 front runners for my MVP race. Based on stats alone, Aaron Rodgers, no picks at home this year. I think it's like 28 or 29 touchdowns, so 0 picks at home. Just playing outside of his mind, as usual. In my opinion, the best quarterback in the game. But there's this one guy down in Houston who plays defensive end who is an absolute monster. And I'm making the case for J.J. Watt for the MVP. We had this discussion the other night, and Adam Carlson made a great point. You can look and see that he has 3 receiving touchdowns this year as a 300-pound defensive end. Those are fluffers, as Mr. Carlson would say. Look at his stats defensively. This is the first time ever in NFL history that a defensive end, or any defensive player for that matter, could be an outside linebacker if needed, but two consecutive years in a row with 20 or more sacks. He had 20 and a half sacks this year. Not sure if it was 20 and a half or just 20 last year, but nonetheless, ridiculous numbers consecutively. Best defensive player in the game by far. I don't have the other stats in front of me, but he had a number of passes blocked, forced fumbles, picking up fumbles that were forced for recovered for defensive touchdowns.
4 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, 2 defensive touchdowns,
There you go.
59 solo tackles, 19 assisted tackles, a safety, and of course the 3 catches for 4 yards and 3 touchdowns.
This is why he's got a nice website that he writes for called the Viking Age. I'm not prepared, but I can tell you, JJ Watt should absolutely be the MVP. Remember 2 years ago, you have to have a lobbying performance to have anyone who's voting for the MVP race to look away from quarterbacks. I understand that quarterback is the most important position. However, this is just one for the record books. And I know that a lot of people would say, "Oh, if you take Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning away, their teams would be 2-14." Houston has absolutely no quarterback.
No, nothing.
I love Arian Foster. I think he's a great running back, but he's not healthy all the time. And next down on the depth chart, we talked about this the other night, is a guy you're like, who is that? Huh? The only really star that they have on offense that I see as an up-and-comer is DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver from Clemson. Andre Johnson is past his prime. He's still very, very productive, like a Greg Jennings, but don't have anybody on the offense to really carry. J.J. Watt is the Houston Texans.
And on defense, Jadeveon Clowney. What happened there?
There you go. Exactly what I was about to say. Injured, number 1 overall pick, supposed to be a freak of nature. He's not on the field this year. J.J. Watt is doing everything in his power, and I've never thought I'd be able to say this, but a defensive end helped them to a winning record this year. So that's my race. I could go and rant all day.
Yeah, they were in the playoff race till week 17.
Yep. With what at the quarterback position and who at wide receiver. I mean, it could go on and on about that conversation, but I would love your guys' thoughts. Sorry we didn't talk about the Vikings in depth at the very end, but it's football related, so we'd like to get the gears turning. But we'll leave that into a discussion next week. I think we might try to have the MVP for the Vikings.
Well, for the NFL MVP, there are a couple guys that I think I might even put ahead of guys like J.J. Watt or Aaron Rodgers. Le'Veon Bell has done so much for the Steelers that it's almost criminal that his name hasn't been brought up in a lot of MVP discussions. Same with DeMarco Murray. I know that running backs are a dying breed in the NFL, and a lot of the focus has shifted to the passing game, and what J.J. Watt has done with Houston is incredible. But for a position that a lot of teams are even just phasing out, or have gone to a committee that can't really work as hard as you'd think they would, Le'Veon Bell and DeMarco Murray are taking a position that is said to be archaic and making it relevant again. And that's why I think they should both be considered. As far as quarterbacks go, there have been other quarterbacks too that have played very well. Andrew Luck, I believe he still led the NFL in passing touchdowns. And would Indy be anywhere near as good as they were without Andrew Luck? Absolutely not.
Nope.
So this MVP race is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of names in there. There's some dark horses. There's some favorites. There's some people that are going to be talked about a lot. No Vikings, sadly, but hey, it's still a race to watch. Because even if you have a little bit of positional bias, if you think, okay, a quarterback should win it or a defensive player should win it, and I watch the offensive lineman a lot, and I can't go an offensive lineman's going to win it. I don't think an offensive lineman has ever won MVP. I would have to go and check the history books, but I'm just going to guess that it didn't happen. But if I were voting today, my vote would be Le'Veon Bell.
It's a very strong case. Very strong case. Like you said, it is kind of a little bit criminal that he hasn't been brought up. Getting overshadowed by the awesome year that DeMarco Murray is having based on yards and just I don't know. I think it was awesome that he played after having surgery on his head like 6 days later. But
the Cowboys are still a solid team with Tony Romo there.
And Des Bryant.
Yeah.
Tony Romo's name could have been brought up for that. He's having an outstanding year too.
Sure could. Russell Wilson as well, but I don't like teams that have multiple stars on the position where it is. Like Green Bay. I like Green Bay. I do. Aaron Rodgers is one hell of a quarterback. But when you got Cobb and Nelson there, it makes you wonder, okay, is Aaron Rodgers making Cobb and Nelson as good as they are? Or are Cobb and Nelson helping out Aaron Rodgers? And it's weird when you have so many stars on teams because it's hard to understand how much each player's value is to that squad. Like, would Dallas be as good in the passing game without Des Bryant? Or would another quarterback be able to step in Dallas and play as well as Tony Romo has, considering he's got Des Bryant? It's really hard to know. It's all speculation. It's all guess if you measure it that way. If you measure by pure statistics, you almost have to go with J.J. Watt. But it'll be weird to see how people vote, what they vote based on. It'll be real fun to watch.
My pick would be J.J. Watt, and I'll keep it short because I think Kyle Smith did a really good job of summing up why it should be him. But you can basically look at his overall season, and you can go, that is kind of almost a once-in-a-lifetime performance that he was able to put up. Statistically, what he was able to do on the field, extremely dominant. And even you look at the things like the touchdowns that he had, you can, like Adam said, maybe you can go, that's kind of ticky-tack, whatever. But still, I mean, hey, you're catching a touchdown in the NFL. That's tough thing to do. You still got to be able to catch the ball.
Especially the guys, sorry to
No,
interrupt
that's
you, but
fine.
the guys that he had more touchdowns than, these are big name guys. I get that Calvin Johnson was hurt, and I know he's a defensive end. Honestly, it's more for ESPN that he catches touchdowns, but when we have 3 or 4 weeks there where J.J. Watt has more touchdowns than Calvin Johnson, that says a lot. There's a lot of debate that could be sparked from that. But please continue, sir. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I think J.J. Watt, you could say that he is probably the best defensive player currently playing in the NFL. And if that's not enough to win MVP, then I don't know what is, right?
Good question.
The last point I had was, I know you have to base it on one season. We can't go, oh, this guy did this year and this guy did this 3 years ago. But as much as I can be a reality guy, hey, I know we're Vikings fans, fanatics here. As much as I can say, being sensible, Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, best quarterback in the NFL. We've seen better quarterback performances. I don't know that I've ever seen a better performance by a defensive end. Last year, Peyton Manning, 55 touchdowns, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. This year, I know that nobody's going to really come close to that now, especially since the regular season's over. But that's the last thing I'll leave everyone with. I know we've seen better quarterback performances. Not taking anything away from his this year, but have we seen a better defensive end performance all around?
Well, you can put a bit of a Vikings spin on this, and we can say that we've seen Jared Allen come within half a sack of breaking Michael Strahan's record. And I think the season that J.J. Watt is having is better than that season that Jared Allen had.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is. So, yeah.
One last interesting nugget before we leave. J.J. Watt, drafted in 2011. I know that you thought like I did that he's been around longer than that. He hasn't. He's still that young.
Mm-hmm.
First round draft pick. You know what pick he was taken?
No idea.
Number 11. Like
well,
Vikings
there you
have
go.
this
Like
year.
we said, number 11. Great spot to pick.
Number 11's been pretty solid.
You can find a gem at anywhere in the draft. That's a very good point, sir.
Who were the 11 guys taken before J.J. Watt?
If he was drafted in 2011, I could tell you. I think that was that
Cam
the same year that
Newton,
Cam
Von
Newton and
Miller,
Ponder,
Marcel Darius, A.J. Green, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, Alden Smith, Jake Locker,
Oh,
Tyron Smith,
oh,
and Blaine Gabbert.
oh. There are a couple.
I'm getting
There are
choked up.
there are a couple guys in there where you can go, hey, you draft AJ Green or whatever, but Blaine Gabbert, ooh, that hurts. That hurts,
Would
man.
love to have a Cam Newton or a Julio Jones, but a Jake Locker is definitely that. Did you hear me cough? You choked me up on that one.
I actually researched this because I saw the Vikings had number 11. I saw J.J. Watt was taken number 11, and I had to see who was taken there. So I had the information in front of me, but some of those names just make you scratch your head.
Well, what's funny too is we were number 12 that year. I remember.
We were.
Oh, how things would have shifted.
And you remember who went in that number 12?
Nope.
Christian Ponder.
Nope. Don't remember it. I don't remember a Christian Ponder.
He hasn't been erased from history. He isn't Chris Benoit. Come on.
Christian who?
And sorry for that wrestling reference. If you need to Google Chris Benoit, I
No, don't
understand.
do it. Don't Google him.
It'll just say this webpage doesn't exist.
Go to the WWE Network and search that in.
I have it. There's nothing. But on that note, I think we'll end the show. Sorry again about the tardiness. Like we said, there have been so many issues with the technical aspects of the show this week that we had a lot of problems. So thank you for being patient with us and listening to us rehash our second or third attempt at this show. So we appreciate that. On that note, I'd like to thank you guys for listening. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/PurplePeoplePodcast, @PurplePeoplePod on the Twitter. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.